Well, hello there. Welcome to our Friday demo. Happy Friday to you. I hope you had a great week. It's getting kind of crazy out there. It's hectic as heck. And I hope you're getting ready for the holidays. But tonight we're going to do a little painting. And this one's a little bit different than maybe the last few weeks. One of my awesome members, Chris, won one of our prizes in our membership art show. But she lives way over in Australia, and she said no need to send her a prize. She was just excited that she won. By the way, hi, Chris. Thanks for coming by. But she did ask me if I could do a demo showing how to do a kind of like a simple ocean scene. And so I thought, of course I could do that. That's awesome. So that's what we're going to do tonight is kind of a simple ocean scene. Hopefully it's going to turn out well. It's kind of a fun technique. I'm going to show you kind of two variations that you could do with this kind of technique. They're really fun to do. They're not super complicated. We're going to be using palette knives a lot, and we're going to try out a new sort of, this is actually an actual for reals cell activator. So similar to the bloom. So we're going to do a cell activator with this particular painting. I'll walk you through the whole darn thing. I think it's going to be a whole lot of fun. So welcome everyone that's joined us. We have a whole big crowd. We have Donna is here, Lily, Carla, Monique. Hey, Monique. Novala is here. Hey, Novala. And we've got Nancy, I think, is here. And we've got, who else is here? We got McLovin in the house. Hey, McLovin, Robert. So let's get started with our, and Tracy's here. Hey, Tracy. So a whole bunch of my awesome members. So welcome. So let's switch the camera and I'll show you kind of an example of what we're going to be doing tonight and how you could kind of modify it. So I'm going to flip over here. And this is, it's kind of not fitting perfectly in the screen, but this is one form of a simple kind of ocean scene. And hopefully that will kind of focus a little bit. But this one is, it's basically a swipe. So we're going to do something very similar to this. This particular one, I have silicone in white, and that's what created all these cells. We're not going to be using silicone tonight at all. So I'm going to show you an alternative, which works even better. And it gives a little more like authentic look, I guess. But I like it a whole lot more. So this is one version of what you could do with tonight. And this one you could do all at once, like in one sitting. The next example is kind of a multi-step process. So I'm going to move this aside. And this is the alternative that you could do. And this one is a little bit different, but this one is using kind of real sand in there. And you've used some little starfish and things like that. So this is a little more complex, just in that you have to do it in a few stages. So, and this one is also not a using the technique we're going to use tonight. This is basically just a flip cup and some ribbons on there. So you could do that instead of kind of what we're going to do tonight with our just palette knife kind of smearing, I like to call it. So this is an alternative. I'll kind of walk you through how to do both of these at once. And you could also do this one with kind of the palette knife effects we're going to do tonight. And then I'll show you when to kind of let it dry, and then you can add the sand and how to do that. And I'll talk about that as we go. So there are two kind of variations of an ocean swipe or ocean scene. And I'm just going to do the kind of the simpler one just because we don't have time for drying and all that kind of stuff. So I'm going to move this one out of the way here. And here's another quick look at this one. And I'm going to just move this out of the way. And I'll pull up our brand new canvas. This is just a 11 by 14. And you could do this in either format. You could do it in more of a landscape format, or you could go and do it in a vertical format. I'm going to go kind of with the landscape just so it fits a little better in our camera. So and this is a smaller one just because, just for time's sake. So I don't have to, do a huge gigantic painting or gigantic canvas, but this is just a canvas. Canvases work better than like a panel for this one, just because we're using palette knives, and it gives a little bit, so it's a little easier to use. So let's get, I'll show you what our colors are going to be. I'll slide this over here really quick. So I was thinking I'm going to do a more tropical kind of ocean scene tonight. So I have mixed up here some gold and some bright aqua green and some turquoise, some metallic turquoise, and some blue. And I'll show you exactly what these are. For our gold, we've got just some gold, and then I added a little bit of metallic white just to give it a little more whitish, beachy look. So that's our gold. That's going to be our beach color. This is just bright aqua green, the Liquitex Basics bright aqua green, kind of right out of the tube. And our turquoise here, I love this color. This is a fantastic color. It's an Artist Loft color, metallic cobalt blue. So this will be kind of like darker, kind of deeper in the ocean. And so that'd be kind of a fun one. And then for our kind of deepest blue, I didn't want to go like super dark, but this is my favorite metallic blue. And I added just a tiny bit of Prussian blue just to get it a little bit darker, just a little darker. So that'll be like the deepest part of the ocean. All right, so I'm going to move these out of the way. And before I get into actually doing our painting, I'll talk about our cell activator. So I'll move these aside over here quickly. And this is actually what we're going to be, this is actually like a bloom alternative. I've already mixed it up, and it's just a white. But this is a very simple formula, and I got this recipe from Nancy Pitre, who you might have seen. I'll show her name here. So Nancy Pitre Art, and she does some awesome blooms, and she's kind of always kind of coming up with new stuff. So the way the bloom works, and you could go look her up on YouTube or Instagram. She does some cool stuff. But the way the bloom works is you have half of your paints, or all your paints are mixed a certain way. These are just my easy recipe. So just 2 parts Floetrol, 1 part paint, a little bit of water. That's it. Just a very simple recipe. I'll show you the consistency in a bit if you want to see it. It's just my standard consistency. And you don't really have to be exact with that. Just get close, because we're not going to be pouring really. We're using our palette knives for the whole thing. But so we have this all mixed with Floetrol. This is mixed with just paint and Liquitex acrylic ink. So you could kind of think of like the Liquitex acrylic ink is a substitute for like the Australian Floetrol, and our paints would be a substitute for, whatever you put in that, like the house paint, deep base or whatever. So you need 2 separate kind of bases in the paints, and that's how you get all of the cells and the lacing and stuff. So the Liquitex acrylic ink is kind of the key to our cell activator, and the cell activator kind of comes to life when you put it on top of colors with a different base, and then you either blow it or swipe it, and we'll be swiping with our knives. So this is like a knife swipe, basically creating a little bit of friction, mechanical friction, and it spreads across the paint, and all of the cells and lacing happen. So the recipe for this is, I did use the titanium Amsterdam White, just because I had it. You could probably use other whites as well, but just a tablespoon of the white, and then like maybe half a tablespoon of water, and then mix those together really well. And then add maybe 2 to 3 droppers of the Liquitex ink. Make sure you shake this stuff up really well, because it settles to the bottom a lot. So you really have to shake this up. But 2 to 3 droppers of this stuff, mix that up really well. And then maybe another half tablespoon of water, and you should be good to go. So I like to add the second tablespoon a little slower, just so you get the correct consistency. And it's about the same as my other paints. Just kind of like that slight mound. So that is pretty much it. for this bloom cell activator. And you could go check out, Nancy's got a video just showing how to mix this up. So it's a pretty simple recipe, but it works great. So I'm going to move this stuff aside over here. And I have my, this will work, we'll use this kind of towards the end of our painting. I'm going to move this aside. I'll show you the, here, let me show you the consistency quickly. I got like a stick here. And let's see, I'm going to put that here. I'm going to just switch the camera to my side view. So here we go. So here is like the aqua green. This is kind of the, can you see that? I'm trying to get it in the camera. So it's like kind of the slight mound. Just kind of my basic recipe, basic formula and consistency. So, and you just get close to this. It doesn't have to be exact for this particular technique. So, all right. So that is the consistency. I'm going to flip back and let's see, put that stick down. So I got my canvas. I'm going to go back to the top view. And if you have any questions along the way, just throw them in the comments and I will try to get to them as soon as I can. All right, so let's see here. Just checking and see if I missed any comments. Nope. Okay, awesome. Okay, so let's get started. First thing I'm going to do, we need a little beach somewhere, and I like to kind of just draw this out quickly just to give me an idea. Just an idea. So I'm just going to kind of do something. I don't like that. See, no, you might not be able to see this. I'm just kind of, it's going to be kind of an abstracted beach scene. That's okay. Something like that. Maybe that's a little too much beach. I think that's too much beach. So I'm going to do another one. Okay. I want a lot of water. I don't want like a tons of beach. So I'm just getting some idea. So you could just sketch out something and it doesn't have to be perfect. I'll probably change that as we go, but I kind of like this bottom one. That looks pretty good. So let's see here. All right. So let's see. Monique said, I'm just going to answer this. We don't have the house paint the way you have in the USA. So this would be a great alternative. Yes. Yeah, I don't really like to use the house paint or the traditional bloom stuff. This is a great alternative to the bloom if you wanted to try that. But this works for, you know, that cell activator stuff works great for swipes and all kinds of things, not just, you know, the bloom. So you can use it in a lot of different techniques if you want to. So, and tonight you'll find out kind of how to do it. So great comment. All right, so next, what I'm going to do, I'm going to actually just pour on some paint and start spreading it around. So I'm going to start at the top here. Pour on a little bit of the darker blue. I'm going to do the beach last after I spread all this around first. And then I'll put in some of the kind of the cobalt. I really like that color. And then I'll put some of this kind of down here. Cool. So then I'm going to take my knife and I'm just going to spread it around. So this is kind of fun and you can be kind of artistic with this. So I'm just spreading, I want kind of a medium thin layer here. We want the paints to kind of mingle around. I like to kind of mix the paints together to create some interest. And it's kind of fun just to play around with the palette knife. You're going to get some really cool things happening, actually. And you can get actually some really interesting lacing and effects happening from this because we're adding some mechanical friction here. And it's, you know, we're getting some kind of similar little cells and things happening. So that's looking good. I'm going to add a little bit more. I'm gonna kind of wipe my knife off. Maybe a little more green. And I want kind of a little thicker coat just because I'm going to tilt this a little bit. So I'm just kind of, again, kind of playing around with this, kind of mixing the colors together to get kind of a interesting organic look. Cool. All right. And I see a question from Lily. And she's asked, do you use white acrylic ink in black or other color alternatives? You can use what I would do. I mean, they make a lot of different acrylic ink colors. So whatever cell activator color you want, I'd use that colored paint. So if you wanted a black cell activator, I'd use like a black paint and then the black ink, Liquitex ink. If you wanted like a purple, I'd use like a purple color and then the purple ink. So just keep them the same. You could also, I mean, if you want, I probably wouldn't try to do like a different colored paint and different colored ink, unless, you know, get something similar, kind of similar. So I hope that answers your question. But you can make all kinds of different colors, I think. So, all right, great question though. Okay, so let's go back to this. I think I'm going to add a little more blue right up at the top and just kind of spread that in a little more. I kind of got a little lost. Oops, that's not the one. Got a little lost with the blue, I think. Cool. And let's see. All right, so I kind of like, oops, I don't like that. So that's looking kind of interesting. I mean, this is an abstract, you know, kind of ocean. So now I'm going to tilt this around a little bit. And the reason for that is just we can get a little more organic feel to our water if we give it a little tilt. Because we're going to get some kind of drips coming, some down, some kind of big drips. And I'm going to kind of turn it. And it's kind of a, you know, a liquidy paint, and we're kind of trying to mimic a liquid, you know, in the ocean. So it seems to make a good, seems to be like a good idea to tilt a little bit. Okay, I don't like this though. We're getting this kind of crazy shape. So I'm going to kind of get rid of that first though. I don't really love that. There we go. So I'll tilt a little bit more. So you can tilt, I'm going to tilt a little bit off the canvas, but you don't have to cover all the edges or anything like that with the tilting. I'm just kind of getting, I just want to kind of blend the paints together a little bit more. Kind of that's why I'm tilting. Okay. So almost done. And you could cover all the edges if you wanted to. It might be a good idea. So almost done. Okay. So that's a kind of a crazy looking ocean. It's kind of very swirly. It might be a little too crazy. So maybe I'll calm it down just a hair. I'm going to just take this and maybe calm it down. We'll be swiping inside this as well, so that'll kind of calm things down. It looks better. Okay. So I'm going to call that good for our ocean. You can play around with this as much or as little as you want to. But I think that's pretty cool. Now I'm going to wipe a little bit of the paint away from my beach line. And I'm going to put my gold on there now. And let's see. Okay, so I got my kind of light gold. Just pour that on and then do the same thing. Just kind of spread this around. Gonna wipe my knife off really well though. And the gold, I can let it go over the edges if I want to, and I'm just gonna kind of butt it up against the water line there with my knife. Just kind of push it in, push it up. And it's looking all right. Now, if I was to do the sand variation of this, what I would do is just paint. I'd probably let the entire water, all the water dry, and then just paint a thin layer of gold with a brush where the beach is. So I just paint that like a thin layer and then let that dry. And so once the gold is dry, our whole painting would be dry then. All the water, all of the sand, the beachy area. Then I'd take and put glue. I'd paint like Elmer's glue over the entire beach area and then sprinkle sand. And you can get this sand at Michael's in like the candle section. They have like a fine sand. So you could sprinkle that all over the Elmer's glue covering the beach. I like to have the gold kind of shining through the sand and then let that dry. You can let the sand dry. And then, so it's a multi-step. That's like 3 steps already. So once the sand is dry, it's still kind of loose on your canvas. So what I like to do is just take my Floetrol, pour the Floetrol on top of the sand and kind of, work it in with like a fine brush or something. Then let that dry, and that kind of locks in the sand, like on top of your beach area, just like this. So, and then at that point, I would add our bloomy things, so like our waves and stuff. But to do that, I'll explain that when we get there. It's a little different in this variation. So, but that's kind of how I would modify this if I wanted the real sand way. Okay, so, all right, we've got a beachy area. This is bothering me right here. I've got canvas showing, so I'm going to kind of cover that up a little bit. Maybe I'll pour a little tiny bit of cobalt on there. I can see that in the camera, and it's bothering me, and same at the back. So, all right. So we are ready to go. And so now we have our water. We've got our ocean. It's time to kind of do our waves and like the breaking waves on the shore and some things in the ocean here. So this is the hardest, this is the easiest part now. Now that we were done with that, it gets a little trickier, but not that much. It takes a little bit of practice, but I think you'll get the hang of it really quick. And I'm going to use some smaller palette knives, something like this. And I have like a little small one like this. And these work great. So what I'm going to do, this is like a reverse swipe or a knife swipe. So I'm going to just kind of dip my knife into our white and get a small amount on the back of our knife. You could also use like a small paint stick. Let me try that actually. See if I have a small. Here we go. I'll set this aside for a second. So you could use like a popsicle stick, like a little one like this. And get that covered with paint, and then you could kind of just spread it on the back of your knife. Oops, you can't see that at all, can you? So, whoops, you can't see that either. Okay, I'm going to move this over. So you could use a little popsicle stick and then kind of just spread the our mixture on the back of your knife, something like that. I don't want like a ton of paint on there though, so just kind of a small amount. And what we're going to do, we're going to kind of drag this kind of delicately through the paint, like on top of the paint, and it's going to create some interesting things. So I want to keep it kind of random and kind of let it skip around a little bit, something like that. Maybe I'll zoom in a little so you can see what I'm doing a little better. Here, let me flip the camera over. So here we go. This might be easier to see. I'm going to move this on the other side. So we're getting some cool lacing and things happening. So I'm going to go and do this again. So here's my knife with the cell activator. I'm going to continue to, I want kind of the heaviest white on the beach. So kind of delicately move the knife over. And you could give this like a practice run if you got like a small practice panel. Just put some paint on it, and then you could kind of practice your knife swiping on top of that instead of the finished painting right at the beginning. And then you can kind of see how it goes. So I'm liking that. I'm going to switch to my longer knife, maybe. So I've got, here it is. I'll do another one. I'll kind of do a little more over here. So I want some kind of foam like on the beach. So and then I'm always kind of wiping off my blade so I don't have a bunch of paint on it, other colors, kind of contaminating your knife. There we go. So this is kind of fun, and you know, it's a little delicate work, but it's really fun to do. Okay, a little more on the beach, maybe. I'm going to go back to my other one. And kind of, I like, you know, keep the kind of palette knife strokes kind of really random and as organic as possible. It's not going to look exactly like, you know, real waves, or just, it's kind of a abstract, you know, ocean scene. Like if you wanted the really real looking waves, I think resin is pretty much the only way I've seen to get that look. But this is kind of a fun way, I think. So cool. So let me flip back to the top camera. You can kind of see what it looks like, hopefully from the top. Oh, it looks kind of crazy and washed out. Let me, I'm going to zoom in a little bit here. Okay. Let's see. Maybe that will be a little clearer. All right. So, okay. So I'm going to check. I got some questions, I think. Let me, let's see. Diane asked, Did he say how to make the cell activator? Yes, I went over that, but I'll go over it really quick. It's a very simple recipe, and it uses, I measure it with a tablespoon. So a tablespoon, I used a tablespoon of the Amsterdam White. You could probably use any other white, I think would work. And then a half tablespoon of water. And then what really makes it the magic ingredient is Liquitex acrylic ink. So 2 to 3 squirts of the Liquitex, the white, titanium white Liquitex ink, and then a little bit more water to get the proper consistency. So it's roughly about a tablespoon of water, tablespoon of paint, 2 to 3 dropperfuls of the Liquitex. And then the regular paints were all just my easy recipe, just 2 parts Floetrol, 1 part paint, a little bit of water to get the proper consistency, and that's it. So, and I got this recipe from Nancy Pitre, I think is how you pronounce it. But it works really good. So it's kind of like it's an alternative like bloom cell activator recipe. And then let's see. And so Chris asked, if we don't have like this particular cell activator, can we use Floetrol or silicone? You could use silicone for sure. That would totally work. Silicone or like the coconut serum is what I like to use now, but either of those would work. So just some, I would just mix some white paint the same way as I mixed all my other colors. So, 2 parts Floetrol, 1 part paint, then just a few drops of silicone or coconut oil in your white paint, and stir it up, and then that would work just as well. You get a little tiny bit different look, but it'd be very close. So, but yeah, that would also work just great. And I've done that many times too. So before I started using this way. So great question. All right. And Jerry asked what I use for the sand. And the sand is just gold. It's some gold and then a little bit of metallic white just to make it a little lighter. So that is my sand color. And I quite like that color. So good question. Nice to see you, Jerry. All right. So let's see here. Any other questions? Lily asked, how long can you store the activator? I'm not sure. I haven't, whenever I mix it, I kind of use most of it. I would say a couple of weeks probably would be fine. I don't think there's anything in here that would kind of, go bad. There's, no, I don't really like to keep silicone paints laying around, but this is just paint and ink. I don't think that would lose its like potency. So probably quite a while, I'd say. And all right. And then Diane is saying, how about some white in the blue area? You bet, Diane. We're going to get there right away here. So yeah, so I kind of did some kind of, foam on the beach. And I might do a little bit more in a bit, but let's start putting some in our waves. So ocean, usually they're heaviest towards the beach, and then they kind of fade out as they go backwards. So let's see what we can do. So I'm basically going to do the same thing. Just take some of my white on my knife. I like to hold the knife kind of sideways. You can kind of control your lines better. You can drag it and get a very thin line. Then you can turn it a little bit and get kind of a thicker line. So something like that. And I always like to wipe it off afterwards to have a nice clean knife. And I'll do a little bit more. There we go. That's kind of cool. And let's see. maybe a couple smaller ones and try to keep them kind of random. You know, I'm not very good with my waves, so I'm not super sure how. And then you could always, if you have a little too much white, maybe you can always go back and kind of move it around and manipulate it a little bit more. I kind of like that because it kind of gets a little very fine and kind of hazy, which looks pretty good. And this one I don't love, so I'm going to just move that. Okay. So it's a very fun kind of, you know, technique to do. It's pretty relaxing. And there's another thing you can do, and I'll show you that in a second here. Let me do a little bit more. Go over here and put kind of a big one. There we go. I think I need some right here, right in this area. It's really fun to watch the cells kind of pop up. I like that. Cool. And then we can kind of continue going back. I'm going to show you something else that you can do. I'll try it on the beach area right here. So I'm going to just kind of redo that area. It's kind of a little bit heavier. And you could take a straw and kind of puff it out a little bit. So I'm going to just blow that just a tiny bit. And I should probably be blowing the opposite way, like onto the sand, because that's kind of how it would actually work. So I'm going to just turn this a little bit. Let me try another one there. So I'm going to do one kind of right here. And I'm going to blow kind of onto the sand. And you can kind of get that spray feel. It's kind of a cool effect. And you could also drizzle just the cell activator just right on the painting. And this works really good too if you're gonna blow it with the straw. I'm blowing it right off the edge. But so that's a fun way to kind of, you know, blow the paint around. And I'll tell you another thing quickly. And see, Brett Navala is saying, not if it's ebbing. And yeah, probably not. But my crazy beach, you know, we can do all kinds of stuff. Physics don't apply to my oceans. So, but another thing you can do, and I'll talk about this real quick. Now, we're swiping the cell activator in here into wet paint, but that's not going to be the possible with this technique because all our paint's going to be dry. We're going to have dry sand. We're going to have dry water. So how do we get kind of the waves and the foam to work? Well, what we do is you pour on a layer of Floetrol, kind of a thin layer, and then you do the same thing that we were just doing into the wet Floetrol. So you can blow with the straw in the in the Floetrol. You can do the swipes in the Floetrol, and it'll do all of the same stuff. But when the Floetrol dries, you'll have that white left on top, and the Floetrol will be clear. So that's kind of how we modify like this technique with on the dry paint. So like a layer of wet Floetrol, and then you do the swipes. You could blow with a straw and do all that stuff into the wet Floetrol instead of the wet paint. So that, and it's a little different look, but it's very similar in the results. So that's how we kind of modify the actual real sand with the the wet paint stuff. All right. So let's see. We can continue on a little bit if we want to. I'm going to check for questions here quickly. And see. Yes, Novala saying, your beach, your magic. Absolutely. So, yep, we can do anything with our beach. So if you wanted a black sand beach, no problem. We could do that if you wanted. Oh my gosh. Okay, so I don't see any other questions at the moment. So let me continue on. I'll just do a little bit more. And then we can, that will be kind of, we'll wrap it up. So I'm going to wipe my knife off again. So it's just kind of more of the same, however far you want to take it. And I'm going to do a couple, maybe bigger ones back here. Maybe a little bigger one over here. And if you want to get, take this to another level, you could get some blue cell activator, like some blue Liquitex acrylic ink, mix it with some maybe light blue paint, and then you could have like some blue waves kind of in the back instead of like the bright white titanium waves. So you could do all kinds of stuff with this technique. All right. Nice. Okay, so let's go. I'll go up kind of in the darker section here. I'll start over here. And in here, you can could try to mix, like blend it a little bit with the paint underneath, so it's not so white. I kind of did it there a little bit. It takes a little bit of a practice, but you can kind of almost submerge it under the paint a little bit. It gets a darker color to it. You can kind of see it there. Try another one. And let's see. Cool. All right, I'll do a couple more maybe. But it's very fun to do. So it's Like, I love this one right there. That's a cool one. Let me do one more kind of up there, and maybe that will be it for now. So I'll start kind of inside here. Ooh, I like that one. So you can take this as far as you want to go with it. You know, you get some very cool looks. You could do, you know, larger ones, smaller ones. You could really play with the foam on the beach to get it looking more realistic if you wanted to. So there's tons of ways to experiment and modify this and tweak it. And you, I mean, this is just one color scheme. You could do all kinds of different color schemes for different types of oceans. It's kind of like a tropical one. And, you know, this one, the example I showed you, this is more of a kind of a classic ocean with, you know, more blues and, you know, the golds than this like kind of tropical colors. So, but all right, let's see if there are any other questions. I think I'll stop there for now, and I'll see if you have any other questions. And let's see. I'll scroll back. I'm just scrolling back up here. Okay. And Jerry is asking, do you put the Floetrol on while the paint is wet? No. No, the Floetrol only goes on this technique. So you might not have been here when I mentioned this. This technique is like a modification, but this is like a multi-step technique doing a painting this way. So this one I did actually a flip cup with some ribbons, then let the paint dry. Then I painted gold, like with a brush, underneath the sand part, and then let that dry. Then I painted Elmer's glue over where the beach area is, sprinkled the sand all over it, and then let that dry, let the glue dry, and then you can kind of tap off the excess sand. Then I pour Floetrol on top of the sand, like a thin layer, thin coating, all over the sand. Let that dry, and that locks the sand in tight. So that's like, you know, 3-4 steps that, you know, we have to let all this stuff dry in between. Then the final step, I pour Floetrol on top of the whole painting or wherever I want the waves. And then I do like the wet knife swipes with the cell activator in the Floetrol. And then you could put it on the beach. You could blow with the straw on the beach. But that's where I pour the Floetrol on top of the dried paint and dried sand. So it's a kind of a totally different process. It's similar, but like multiple steps, and you're letting stuff dry in between. So it gives a little bit different look, but it's kind of a fun alternative. And then you can like glue on the little, you know, starfish and stuff like that. So it's a fun way to do it too. But with this type of a painting, you know, it's all done wet. So we can do everything wet and then let it dry and we're done with it. So it's just a different way of doing it. That's a great question though. Okay. All right, let's see here. Just check in. And okay. And I can put the cell activator in the replay description, so you could find it there. But you could also go to this is Nancy Pitre Art. If you go to YouTube and just search this, she has a video on her exact formula. So this is basically her formula that I'm using and showing you tonight. So if you wanted to check that out, but I'll be happy to put it in the description so you could reference that later. Cool. Let's see. So thanks, Suzanne. Suzanne likes the technique. Yeah, it's a fun one. It's a fun technique. I thank you for that. I'm glad you like it. Oh, Carla is asking, how did the top coat turn out on the ornament? It turned out great. Let me show you. I've been meaning to do a little live video for that, but I'll show you. So I'm going to flip the camera. So here is the here's the ornament. Maybe hopefully you can see that. It dried perfectly. It dried great. And this is the top coat from Deco Art. And I just poured it right on top. It's a really nice shiny surface. So I hope I don't drop it in the ocean. So, but it turned out great. It's a perfect finish. There's no runs. It's a nice covering. So thanks for asking about that, Carla. It turned out really well. So I'm happy with that. So, all right, let's see. And Jerry is asking, can you write a step-by-step for that in our membership? Sure, I could. You know, if you wanted, I could do that. I could do more detailed, you know, demo for you in the membership too, if you want. That's a good idea. All right, let's see here. Thanks for the great comments. Everyone likes the colors of the ocean. I like them too. So you're welcome, Chris. Chris likes it. And I basically did this for Chris. So you're very welcome. I'm glad you liked it. So, all right. So I can go over any other questions if you have them. Navala is asking, she wonders if it would work for the cloud mix. I don't know. It depends on what kind of cloud effects you want, because this will always give you kind of the lacing in cells, whereas like a cloud mixture is much more of a diffused, kind of airy, almost like a, I don't know how to describe it. It's almost like an airbrushed look with the clouds. So, but it depends on, you know, what you're after. But yeah, it's a fun way to do it. And then you could use this, you know, cell activator alternative for, you know, all kinds of stuff. You could try this. You could do blooms if you wanted to with this cell activator, and just use all the regular paints you don't normally use with the Floetrol. So just the Floetrol for your paints. Use this cell activator, and you would get some nice looking blooms. The cells or the lacing in cells might be smaller and not maybe quite as strong as the other cell activators, but you can get some nice looking things. I don't know if you could get them really big and stretched out, but you can make some interesting paintings. So let's see. All right. Well, thanks for, and Navala wants a cloud mix. Yes, we'll do a cloud mix soon. I've got a good one, I think, that I think you'll like. So we'll be doing that in the membership. So, which will be fun. And we'll be doing that next year. I mean, I can't believe the year is almost over. That's crazy. So, all right. And Robert is asking, sometimes when I blow out my bloom, the pillow swallows my colors. Yeah, that's one of the tricky parts with the bloom is having your pillow the correct consistency and with the right paint. And when you blow it out, like one of the biggest problems is you blow too hard and the paints go and sink and kind of stick to the canvas. So the pillow is kind of a thicker layer of paint. And when you blow the cell activator out, it's hopefully thick enough that you can kind of blow the paint, but without it sticking to the bottom. and then you kind of let the paint kind of rise back up to the top. It's a tricky technique, and there's a lot of like little intricacies with it. But yeah, if you've got a weird, there's like everyone has a different like pillow recipe and a bloom recipe, and they all have a different pouring medium recipe. It's out of control. So everyone's got something different. So there's a lot of confusion about it. But yeah, we'll try to tackle the bloom next year for sure. So, and get some nice looking blooms. Cool. Well, everyone is taken off, but thanks so much for coming, everyone. Navala's leaving. Bye-bye, Navala. Thanks so much for watching. And Monique, thank you so much. So I think that's it. I think we'll call it an evening. And if you, I hope you have a great weekend. Maybe you could give the ocean a try if you want to this weekend. You could post them in the Facebook group. I'd love to see them. And let me know how it goes for you. You could check out Nancy Pitre's, let me pull her name back up. Nancy Pitre Art. Go check that out on Instagram or YouTube. And she has the recipe. You could follow that, or I'll also put it in the description of this video so you can review it if you want to. It's a pretty simple one. Basically, it's paint, 1 tablespoon of paint, a couple drops or a couple squirts of the Liquitex acrylic ink, and a tablespoon of water. That's about it. So pretty simple. But all right. All right, cool. Well, thank you so much, everyone. Have a great weekend. Have a great holiday. I don't think I'm going to be here next week for doing a live demo. I think we'll take next week off. Enjoy yourselves. Enjoy your family. Have some relaxation time. If you're feeling at all frustrated with your painting, take a little break and come back to it refreshed and later. It's always good to take a little break and kind of let your mind think about other things instead of painting. I'm always thinking about painting. So, but have happy holidays, everyone. And I will talk to you again very soon. Thanks so much for watching. Bye-bye.